one number. Me and the boys never get tired of playing.
Reserve your place in fun. Harris Casino in Joliet.
Tonight, NBC presents a world premiere miniseries event, Barbara Taylor Bradford's Remember. Donna Mills stars as Nicole Wells, a beautiful journalist, and when she stumbles on a startling secret, will she risk her life to find out the truth?
Help me, please.
They tried to kill you twice. You want to give them a third chance?
The powerful best-selling novel becomes a world premiere NBC miniseries event, Remember.
As long as I live, I won't forget you.
Starting tonight on NBC.
591-7200, our phone number, WGN Radio. Wally Podrazik in the studio with us, talking about the new TV season. And I guess, let me say that, you know, we have liked series before, and every time we like a series, it's usually the kiss of death.
Mm-hmm.
This time, I think we're really in the minority mode. Because not only do we like a couple new series, but they're on Fox. Two of our favorite shows.
Okay,
I wonder if they're on your list. Briscoe County Jr. And The X-Files, which are back-to-back on Friday nights.
Well, I was holding my breath, because if you had said Daddy Dearest, then I would have been very surprised by it.
Daddy Dearest makes me want to throw the TV out the window.
Well, I'll just get this out of the way first. I have loved Don Rickles since 1966 or 67. And I know he's doing exactly the same shtick that he did in 1966 and 67. I think Newsweek said it best. It's like, it's so politically incorrect.
Yes.
It's refreshing.
What?
Yeah, they said that. They were comparing Daddy Dearest and Frasier, and said that Daddy Dearest had more bite to it now.
So this is the backlash then to everybody feeling overly sensitive in this PC world, so now we need a Don Rickles. I find it uncomfortable.
And that's what bothers me about it. I like Don Rickles. I think Don Rickles is a funny man. To me, somehow his cast goes over that line where it becomes nasty.
He used to push the envelope. Now he's just opened it up and he's gone right out there.
And to me, it's nasty to a point where the nastiness becomes distracting, and it distracts you from the comedic effect. I think they've just gone too far over the line with it. This is an angry man that you want to say, no, I just don't want to know you. That's my reaction to it.
Yeah, as I say, it's just a real contrast to what you would normally expect to find in this politically correct world or in this warm, fuzzy family world.
Yeah.
And some people can take it and some people can't. Yeah. And I confess I don't run to tune in each week, but I said, okay, I could buy this.
Well, do you like Frasier? You've mentioned it a couple times.
I like Frasier very much. Frasier is on my short list of several programs that I will watch. And in fact, because of its approximation to Seinfeld, I mean, it's an hour. You just set the tape recorder for an hour, and you got that show. I like it because he's an intelligent, articulate person. I like John Mahoney, always have, on stage.
He is really wonderful, Dad.
And they pulled, I don't know if you noticed, but their in-house nurse, in effect, or in-house keeper for Dad is from a Seinfeld episode. She was, I believe, the Virgin.
Well, we're not Seinfeldy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And we tried.
We should explain. We watched, I think there was one episode of Seinfeld that we thought was really kind of cute, and that was the one where what was it? The mint. They were watching this operation, and the mint goes into the body.
Somebody's body when they were being operated upon.
And that was kind of funny.
Then
we made the mistake of getting caught up in the much talked about M episode, then the O episode, and they both left me cold.
They really did. Not because of the subject matter, but because it just wasn't funny.
And of course, those are the two that are all talked about.
Those are the ones that just get attention. But frankly, the more interesting ones, I think, are like if you're waiting in line for a movie, which was one whole episode was based on four people trying to connect at the same time to get into the same movie. And one of the characters, George, buys all the tickets and tries to get It's just something to say, I've done this.
Okay.
And that is kind of fun.
But you know what bothered me about some of the sexual episodes that they did when we watched, again, not the subject matter, but the jokes were the kind of jokes you would expect to see, out on the grade B comedy circuit. They just weren't intelligent, funny jokes. It was sort of
and the timing of the show at 8 o'clock at night, I'm approved. I felt very uncomfortable about the popularity of the show at 8 o'clock at night and that subject matter, the way it was handled. This was the big O episode.
Yeah. Okay.
Back to Frasier for just a moment. I think Eddie is one of the greatest things on television.
Oh, the dog.
The dog is just the greatest.
And the rest of it?
Now, this is interesting. If you said to me, do you like it, I'd probably say, oh, it's okay. But that's one of those shows that even without Seinfeld as a lead-in, I found myself going back to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really a conscious thing. So I must like it more than I'm even aware of. I think his character, Frasier's character, was one of my least favorite on Cheers. I feel people just saying,
No. I
say that.
He started out, he started out much more like his brother on Frasier. That is, he has his obnoxious brother, who's more Frasier than Frasier is. It's almost like when Rhoda got her own show, she got her sister Brenda, and Brenda became Rhoda, like Rhoda used to be on Mary Tyler Moore.
Right.
And over the years on Cheers, actually Frasier did develop, have a little more depth, a little more warmth. The thing that I was a little concerned with is I thought he had a wonderful marriage relationship on Cheers, which they had to destroy to make this series work, or to launch the series. And I thought they did it very well, and I was very pleased to see that the character does survive on his own. And they just have enough little things that add up to a successful... I feel like I've enjoyed myself and been intellectually stimulated at times.
Some thought went into it.
You complained about the level of bathroom humor on Seinfeld. You certainly couldn't say that about Frasier.
Oh, no. Not at all.
You're not going to see... I mean, when they're making jokes about appreciating lowbrow classical music, that is not exactly bathroom humor.
Right.
Let me jump to a couple calls. Robert, you're in your car. Where are you at?
Right now I'm in Highland, Indiana.
Great.
Stay there. Don't get anywhere near the Chicago area expressways.
No, matter of fact, I'm about to head south. Anyway, you were mentioning the X-Files.
Yeah.
I think that if they did this show right, it could possibly turn into the next Twilight Zone or something in that genre.
Absolutely right, yeah.
It is, I think, something that people may not be watching because they're not sure what it is. And it's one of those little shows like maybe Star Trek, for instance, where bringing these subjects to the forefront, they're going to get the people sucked in, and hopefully they're going to watch it.
But also their intelligent scripts and the reaction, the interaction between the male and female leads works on a lot of levels.
Right. They don't have to have a romance there. They can appreciate each other intellectually.
Yes, definitely. Most definitely. Also, you were mentioning Briscoe County Jr.
Isn't that a great show?
Oh, I love it. I really just turn that on every week it comes on. It's something unusual.
And for people that haven't watched it, Wally, wouldn't you agree, it's sort of a combination of Maverick meets Indiana Jones?
Yeah, it's a Western for people who hate Westerns. In essence, it takes the Western setting and has fun with the main characters. And it's a little different from Maverick in that it tries to have more reoccurring characters from episode to episode. But it has that same... Oh, gosh, look at the West. Isn't it kind of fun? It has that kind of spirit to it. And it has those threads of, what about his dad? And his dad was killed. And so that's one of the reasons he's out avenging evil or whatever the cliche is.
But the villain, I think, is one of those villains that, and it's a recurring villain character, it's one of those things that I think actors would just give their eye teeth to play. It's a great part.
And
What's
Bly,
the guy's name?
John Bly, who has a cave that he hides out in with a chandelier and a baby grand piano, and he's into this highbrow music.
Very much like the Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
You would have like Dr. Miguel Loveless. The beauty of all this, and we can go on another column on my napkin here, the beauty of all this is you don't have to know anything about Wild Wild West, Maverick, or any of these things we've alluded to. It is taking the spirit of what was good in those and saying, here, let's do it again. Let's do it again for new generations.
I agree.
And there are a couple of shows that have tried that and done it very well.
Robert, do you agree with all this?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Definitely.
Thumbs up for Fox Friday night. We got to get more people to watch then.
Definitely.
Thanks, Robert.
Have a nice day.
And, actually, that's going to be hard to do because NBC just started with their Perry Mason thing this past Friday night. Their Friday night mystery wheel thing.
And I'm a sucker
it looks like
for
it has.
Me too.
They've got Heart to Heart is coming on.
Yeah. I can't wait.
Larry
for
Hagman doing... people forget that he has a very strong comedic background, so he could walk that line of drama, but drama with a little bit of tongue-in-cheek. And Pierce Brosnan is supposed to be... that's one of the slots, one of the performers they've talked about sticking in that slot. I don't know if they've fully developed that premise yet. But
that mystery wheel concept was very successful for NBC on Sunday nights back in, what,
right.
the 70s?
In the 70s.
McMillan and Wife and Columbo.
Vanacek and Columbo and all the... essentially made their mark in that environment because you don't have to do 13 episodes. You start out saying, I only need 6, or I only need 7 for the series, and it's a lot easier to write 7 good ones than 23 good ones.
Right.
Yeah. Well, let me take a couple other phone calls for, let's see, Barbara, you've been hanging on for a while. Thanks for your patience.
Hi, good afternoon, Steve and Johnny.
Hi, Barbara.
Your guest.
This is Wally in here.
Hi.
Hi. I would like to know what you think about the new TV show, Putnam. It comes on 7:30 on Tuesday evening. It's with William Devane and Judith Light.
I haven't seen it. Wally,
I know what you're talking about. The premise is a young tennis star.
Right.
Essentially, it's what is life like for someone who is super talented athletically, who has people who want to push her to the top.
Right.
It's okay. It's not one of those that I'm going to tune in every week and say, oh, wow, this is really good.
Well,
I don't dislike it or anything.
Barbara,
what about you?
Do you like the William Devane character as her coach? Now, see, I keep seeing him in...
Yeah, I keep connecting him with Max Landing.
And Judith Light, you keep connecting with Tony Danza.
Yeah, I think she looks like a mess this year.
I agree, actually.
I don't know why, but why
That's the harried mom look, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know, run.
Yeah.
I don't have time for myself. I have this child that's going to be a phenom.
Yeah.
So.
But do you enjoy it or not?
Yeah, I like it. My nephew's the writer and the producer.
Oh, really?
That's why I wondered about it. I didn't know if it was going to... It looks like it's a hit some days.
Well, I think it's probably going to stay around.
Yeah, it has a pretty good slot, as I recall. And is she still on?
That's her nephew calling, I think.
Oh, okay. But I guess the tough part is I still haven't really warmed to... it's difficult when you're trying to put someone who is not, let's face it, a likable character, which would be the William Devane character. It takes a while to warm up to it. You have to walk that very delicate line between I'm going to show my aggressiveness and I'm going to show littleness, but still be somebody that you might actually want to see again. He's nowhere near Don Rickles in terms of turning someone off,
right.
But it is not you immediately warm up to him like someone might immediately warm up to Harry Anderson's Dave.
Barbara, thanks for the call. Yeah. There are really 3 shows that we religiously tape out of this season.
New shows.
New shows. Briscoe County Jr., X-Files, and the one that Mike is about to mention. Hi, Mike.
Yes, how are you?
What show are you going to talk about?
I was going to talk about the new adventures of Lois and Clark. I was wondering what you think of that, and I noticed it it says like apparently it's gaining ratings now, even though it's up against Sequest and Murder, She Wrote. Well,
right at the top of my list of favorite shows is Lois and Clark.
Really?
For a lot of reasons. First of all, I grew up on comics in the 50s and 60s. And unlike the Superman movies, which said, "Oh, comic books, that's awful. Let's make a grand statement and let's do something interesting with this." Instead, they've said, "There's some pretty good ideas there. Let's bring them into the 90s." The fact that they bothered even remembering there was a Lucy Lane, Lois's sister.
Right.
The fact that they remembered that Lucy and Jimmy went out. I mean, they've got so many things that they caught, and if you don't know that this is from the 50s and 60s, it doesn't matter. It's just a good evolution of the characters. They have great relationships straight across the board. The Perry White character is wonderful.
Oh, he's excellent.
Great
Shades of Elvis.
Great Shades of Elvis.
Which is a 90s Great Caesar's Ghost, of course.
And then also you've got, you know what this really reminds me of is not the Superman movies, but The Greatest American Hero.
Yeah.
Which is a very low-key superhero. The heroics are there. He flies. He's faster than a speeding bullet. He bends.
But you're focusing on the human side.
You're focusing on the relationship, and he's not always battling the super Kryptonian sun god. He's going after simple things.
An
fixing a fight, an airplane's crash. I think tonight they're going undercover at some restaurant bar setup where Lois gets to sing, and it's just been a sheer joy to watch.
Mike, what do you think about it?
I like it. I think I think as you said, it's an understated show. I'm hoping that it leads into more more comic book heroes being put on TV.
And done right.
I like that.
Done right.
Done right.
Yeah. And
I think the only complaint I have with it, and you know me, I'm a comic book nut, and I like things of this nature. The only complaint I have is, I don't know what they could do about this. I want to see a difference in his voice when he goes from being Clark to being Superman, because it's so, you know, Superman with this kind of a high voice. Hello, here I am to save the world. And I'm envisioning Mighty Mouse.
I disagree. I think his voice is fine, and actually, what really surprises me is he actually has managed to make his face look a little different. I don't know if it's just the way he combs his
part
hair.
of it is combing his hair.
Yeah, because Harry, my writing partner Harry, and I were talking about this. I mean, what used to crack us up about the original Superman, the black and white that you see on Naked Night now.
Take off the glasses and that's it.
Right, is you have to be a total idiot to be standing next to this man and not realize that he is one and the same, Superman and Clark Kent.
Both of them with really bad hair.
Here, on the other hand, Lois has already noticed that there's a resemblance because she's used to say, oh, well, Superman looks like, he's got eyes kind of like Clark, but they're much better. They're much dreamier, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, there is a physical resemblance, but because you project what you want onto this person, you're going to say, oh, you can't possibly be the same. And I also love what they've done. This is something the comics started doing actually in the 70s, is they said, look, Clark Kent as a wimp is really no fun at all. Yeah. So let's make Clark Kent an intelligent, respected person. And they've done that wonderfully. And also, if you really think about it, he started out as Clark Kent and then became a Superman as opposed to all these years, it's I'm Superman, let's put on this Clark Kent disguise. And I also love the fact that his parents are alive, and he stops and visits with them and talks with them.
They've really, as someone who gets all 4 of the current Superman comic books, they've really talked to the DC writers and scripters to take a lot of their background material, and this is a case where they've listened, and the input is really helping the series.
Well, it's not a cheap show either. It looks good. I mean, even the effects. When he flies, that's okay.
And you know what? They spent some of the money on scripts as opposed to Sequest, which runs opposite them, which is basically warmed over Star Trek and
done not all that well.
I mean, just think of the talking dolphin. Okay, there's this effect where this little boy genius has come up with some way of communicating, so you can actually have a conversation with the dolphin. And I'm still trying to understand this. They have like corridors that go through the Sequest so the dolphin could turn up in almost any room. So they can translate the dolphin and what the dolphin is saying. How does a dolphin know? How does it get our grammar and context and all that other stuff to have these
But see, isn't that kind of an assumed thing? Because there are people right now in 1993 that will say that dolphins can, in fact, communicate with humans.
Picture
and all that.
Roy Scheider's character. They set it up with, he started out spending years of his life learning to make a dolphin respond to like a hand signal, stop, go, up, down. Runs in this kid that just invented a way to communicate and discuss the great works of art with this dolphin. Oh, sorry. Well, I guess I wasted half my life.
It's also a very dark-looking show. That's why I have a difficult time warming up to it.
And whereas Superman is a very bright show.
Yeah, bright and cheery.
Mike, thanks for the call. One other show that we haven't touched on, I want to get to some more calls. Something that, frankly, we haven't watched as often as we really want to. Mad About You. Which is, I think, a wonderful, gentle comedy that shows something that we're in favor of, that you can be married and still like each other and have fun with each other and not think, oh, well, I've married the old battle axe, so now I got to put up with him or her.
He's a brainless husband, and how did I ever, since I'm so evolved, end up with this lug? It's so refreshing. There's a special chemistry there with Paul Reiser.
It really works.
That's one of those shows that what you want to do is actually hope it doesn't get magazine covers and such for like it just gets decent enough ratings to be around for another year or two. Because that's when you want in your pocket. That's when you want 5-6 seasons worth. You want it in the rerun cycle, the syndicated rerun cycle, as something nice to visit for many years on end. If it started saying, oh, look, we've done an M episode, well, suddenly you've got to do more M episodes. So you've got to do O episodes or what have you. This is just very quiet, and let's see what happens. I don't like his new haircut.
They integrated Stephen Wright a couple of weeks ago, which was truly bizarre.
Him.
I'm not sure if that fits the whole tone of the show.
I think if they do it it works.
Yeah.
If it doesn't become a recurring every episode, he has to be here.
Yeah, they don't need a Kramer character in the show so that every time he enters, the audience goes wild.
And I think, to me, that's an interesting thing about the show, and I wonder how you feel about it, Wally, that you don't need all the usual friends coming in. You can just do a half hour with the two of them, and there's enough going on there that it works.
Oh, sure. I mean, that's the strength of relationship comedies. And we spend a lot of time talking about Lois and Clark. That is actually the most important part, the relationship aspect of those the two main characters. There's no coincidence. That's called Lois and Clark, subtitle, The New Adventures of Superman.
Yeah.
And those are the series that I've always had the greatest affection for. If there's a continuing relationship that doesn't go to the caricatures that you were alluding to earlier, it's wonderful to watch.
Like early moonlighting.
Like early moonlighting. And as I contend, something like Remington Steele pretty much pulled off through its entire run.
Yes.
You mentioned early moonlighting with semi-obligatory checklist down here of redoing things. We got Wonder Years replaced by Boy Meets World, Moon Over Miami, trying to be another moonlighting. Let's see, Against the Grain, sort of trying to do I'll Fly Away without any of the relevancy. Have you folks seen any?
No.
Well, you know, trying to be like warm and small town and what have you.
Yeah. Moon Over Miami turned me off from day one, even though I like the guy, the main character, and his name escapes me. A hunk and a long list of hunks that will get a chance on television just because he's good looking. I don't know that he can act worth a darn, but it kept being pushed down my throat as a moonlighting type show. And the last two seasons of Moonlighting left me so cold, I absolutely refused to even tune into this.
Yeah, that's always a problem when you say, this is going to be a great relationship show. You always take a big chance when you do that because you go, no, it isn't. I mean, again, it's the it had to be you problem. This is a great relationship. Well, it's a so-so relationship.
Yeah. Let me bring in two callers here because they both want to talk about the same show, and I'm curious to see how they feel about it. Lois, say hello to George. George, say hello to Lois. You're both on the phone.
Hello.
Okay, now you both called to talk about Grace Under Fire. Let's do ladies first. Lois, what do you think about it?
I love it.
Okay, why?
I don't know that I can put a finger on it. Her sense of humor, the way she reacts. Sure, she's got the obligatory 3 kids, but you can actually believe that she's, that something like this could actually be happening.
Okay, George, what do you think about it?
We believe the same thing. The situation is a normal situation, and the humor is so laid back and so droll that we just enjoy it to no end.
And, well, you should be pleased to know that that's doing okay in the ratings. It has a very good time slot, and it's one of those, as we were talking earlier, one of those series where you take a stand-up person and let them expand their abilities on stage, but in this case, they bring a little bit more than the mommies do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Does she get into, she's worked the humor of being a battered wife into her stand-up routine. Does any of that edgy stuff ever come into the show?
Yeah.
Does it?
Really?
So we've not actually watched the show. She can do no wrong, I guess, as far as New York is concerned. You know, they think that this is the greatest thing that's come down the pike since the Mary Tyler Moore. You know, it's very 90s humor. So she doesn't have a husband in this, right?
No, but her neighbors are trying to fix her up.
Yeah. Her name is Rhett Butler?
Brett Butler.
Brett Butler. Wonderful name for a Southern girl. Okay, so thumbs up for Grace Under Fire.
Yeah, and I'm also glad to hear that you all liked Clark and Lois.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we get...
And I'm hoping that's one of those that's going to have enough word of mouth to survive maybe temporary ratings dips against the big budget of a Sequest or the
Yeah, well, I haven't even touched Sequest. I just turned to...
Yeah, you're not missing anything.
Thanks, Lois.
Okay, thanks.
Wings is a great program.
Wings is good, yeah.
In fact, we could use that to slide over to every time we meet in September or October, or we meet at the end of the year and we talk about what kind of season it will be and all. Frankly, most people looking at the new season don't say, I wonder what new shows are going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
They say, okay, here are my favorites. What's happening with them?
Right.
Yeah.
And going down my short checklist here, I was very pleasantly surprised at L.A. Law after 2 years of not knowing what in the world it was doing, except for like maybe 2 episodes last year, suddenly made it look so easy. I mean, they bring in those 2 characters from the late
didn't they get
lamented
back to the
Civil Wars.
original writers and producers and things?
Some of that is in effect, but also just they decided, okay, got a couple more interesting characters. They introduced the woman who was a Christian lawyer, so they've used that.
I haven't seen that yet. I'm very curious. When I heard about that character, I really want to see how they're going to play it.
Very good. They have not shied away from her citing her beliefs, but they
she's not a nutcase.
No.
Good.
And in fact, that's part of the reasons why I was so pleased, because let's face it, the entertainment industry tends to equate religion of any sort with kind of being off the deep end.
Same way Stephen King does in his books.
And that's a shame, because there are an awful lot of us who actually do practice our faith and really believe it and can be functioning and even cynical human beings at times.
Yeah.
And this person does the job very well. She immediately saw right through Arnie, who started quoting scripture left and right because he was in love with her the first time or in lust with her the first time he saw her. And she goes, fine, I don't do this. Just take a walk.
That's good. I got to watch it. That would make me tune in.
And also the character from Civil Wars, and I've just blanked out on his name. It'll come back to me in a moment, but he was presented as, my God, my brain is totally blanked out.
Okay,
Stuart's cousin.
Okay, we'll let Wally's brain turn to Jell-O a little bit more, and we'll take a break, and we'll come back. And George, thanks for your call.
If you like the taste of cheese, please try Smart Beet fat-free slices, because Smart Beet is freer than free. I'm Bob Harris, and you should know that only Smart Beet slices are both fat-free and cholesterol-free. Other brands of non-fat cheese contain cholesterol, and Smart Beet has the mellow taste of cheddar. Smart Beet is freer than free in American, sharp, and new lactose-free slices.
Smart Beet, it's the right way to eat.
Hi, I'm Tom Carey of Hawthorne Racecourse, here to talk about horse racing and relaxation. Join us this week. Post time is 1 p.m. Hawthorne Racecourse, where you're always on the right track.
I was behind in math. I was afraid that I'd say the wrong answers and that the class would laugh.
Molly was on very shaky ground, and she needed help. That's when we brought her to Sylvan. Her grades improved dramatically. I believe it was in 1 quarter they went from a D to a B. I could tell her self-esteem was so much different.
I'm not embarrassed because now I know all the answers.
I knew she could do it.
For higher grades tomorrow, call your local Sylvan Learning Center today at 1-800-EDUCATE. That's 1-800-EDUCATE.
When Dr. Melvin Rustum, a Madison, Wisconsin psychiatrist, saw a Land's End outlet, he thought we were crazy.
Crazy? No, I don't use that word, but yes, this is irrational behavior.
Every day we take new merchandise from the Land's End catalog and mark it way down.
Ah, this may be the manifestation of something deeper, from their early developmental years.
Everything is first quality. It's just stuff we ordered too much of for our catalog, so we cut our already modest prices and take our lumps.
Ooh, masochism. This ought to be monitored very closely.
If you don't stop by today, who knows what you'll miss?
Another day, another deal.
The Land's End outlet stores.
Today's special Land's End outerwear, including men's and women's print squall jackets at Chicago retail stores. You'll pay $69 on up to over $100 for
What's a
similarly
squall jacket?
warm. It's a warm, rugged jacket with printed fleece.
Okay.
Stay with me on this.
Okay.
In the Land's End catalog, they're usually a reasonable $79.50, but now at the outlet, they're just $50.80. The special ends on Wednesday, so do hurry.
Oktoberfest, tailgate parties, whatever the seasonal party reason. Remember the Rubschlager breads. Reach for the Rubschlager breads at your favorite deli, supermarket, or specialty store. Rubschlager breads. Wally Podrazik in the studio with us. We're talking about the new TV season. And
Eli. Eli is the name of the character on L.A. Law who came over from Civil
2
Wars.
minutes.
Doggone it.
Every time we do this with Wally, we are at a bit of a disadvantage because not only does he do this more for a living, but with our schedule, we're usually napping during prime time, so we kind of selectively think, okay, let's try taping this or that, and after the fact get an idea of what's going on. We're talking off the air about Roseanne, and this was kind of a spin-off of our conversation about what had happened on Seinfeld, and we were mentioning that while we weren't offended by the subject matter,
frivolous.
In the AIDS 90s, we thought that the approach to sex was kind of frivolous. And Wally, you were telling us about what's going on Roseanne.
Well, on Roseanne right now, is though it's not the #1 rated show, it's still a very strong top 5 show, and certainly wins its time slot easily. The twist this year thus far has been, Roseanne was, for some reason, got this stirring and longing, wanted to have another child. And simultaneous with that, Jackie decided to have totally irresponsible one-night stand with a total stranger. And that has resulted in Jackie getting pregnant with the flip of Roseanne still can't. So right now, Jackie is dealing with now what's going to happen because this is my last chance probably to have a kid, because I'm getting older and I haven't found Mr. Right and all that. So I'm going to do this. And in fact, she even looked forward to telling her mom. That is, the character looked forward to telling her mom to just really freak her out.
Yeah, to aggravate
So that's, if you're talking about irresponsible sex in the 90s,
well, as blatant as it gets.
Yeah.
But isn't there's kind of a moral going on there, too, that you can get pregnant once.
Oh, yeah. What once does it.
Yeah. Have they tried to explain Roseanne's face? Her new look?
And she's looking good, isn't she?
I know.
Must be the diet.
Well, no, she's had so many facelifts.
Right. You mean the character? Have they tried to explain that? Not that I've noticed, but it doesn't really matter.
It does to me. I keep thinking it's going to break if she smiles too big.
Well, then again, if I'm bothered by Paul Reiser's hairstyle, then I guess you have a right to be bothered by a facelift.
Can you hang with us for a little while longer?
Sure.
Okay, good. We got a break for news and some things, and we'll continue. Lines are jammed up, so stay with us. We'll get to you as quick as we can.
If your brakes need service, remember this. The brake specialists at Sears have more certification.
News. This is West Bleed. And now back to Steve and Johnny. I'm sorry, I always get out of sync
put the
here.
Script in there for him? I don't know.
Every air personality has their own unique...
Picadillo.
Yeah.
That's the technical radio word
or
for
armadillo, whatever.
Well, hi, Wes.
Hey, Johnny, Steve, good to see you.
This is Wally.
Boy, does that sound enthusiastic. Hey, Johnny, Steve, good to see you.
Wally. How did the ghost stories go yesterday? I left. I was there in the morning and was well on my way by the time you got out there.
Because those heels got to you after a while, right?
Sure
those
did.
heels and pantyhose.
Toting around that little suitcase and all that.
Flight attendant outfit that you had on. That's a hit, Wes.
I have embarrassed myself for a second year in a row.
Yeah. And
did you see the Memo Ferry?
Oh,
our very own general manager.
Was a wonderful.
Of course, he had a long way to go from last year's Grant Park outfit that he had on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What
was that? That was very
he had
strange.
trash all over him.
Yeah.
Didn't quite make it last year, so he more than outdid himself this time around.
Joker from the Batman movie with the green hair. It was creepy. You know what was scary?
Good.
You know what was truly scary?
Yeah.
You're not going to tell that story,
The plaid polyester bell bottoms and the red and white polyester sport coat he had on were really clothes that he wore.
That he purchased.
No.
They were out of his closet for years.
Right.
Yeah.
He did not purchase these for the costume.
I asked how long ago, and he wouldn't answer.
He said, well, if I'd thrown them away, I wouldn't have had a costume for today. I said, whoa, boy.
Well, there are two scary things about that to me. One, that he actually bought those clothes one time. Two, that he can still fit into those clothes years later.
Yeah, it's 20 years later.
That's the real scary thing.
Hadn't thought of that.
I hadn't either. So
we should have all applauded.
Yeah, he didn't rub that in our faces.
Well, I'm proud to say that I could still fit into my Robin the Boy Wonder costume, which I first wore in 8th grade.
No.
You can leave now, Wally.
You were 13 years old?
Well, they were stretch leotards, but in any case.
Well, remember what happened to Steve when he wore leotards.
Yeah.
He got me.
I didn't realize
He was wearing the leotard to King Richard's Fair with the velvet.
We were the king and queen of King Richard's Fair.
Riding
and,
the elephant named Killer, and he asked me to marry him. And, and I said, of course.
Strange things happen when you put on leotards.
And we make fun of TV.
That's right. And that's what we're talking about, too, if you're just joining us. Wally's last book was Harry and Wally's favorite TV shows, and Wally has just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to watch everything. You literally try to watch everything at least once, right?
Right, though, actually, for when new series come on, my writing partner, Harry, and I, we've split the alphabet. I have A to K, and he has L to Z. So that way we don't have to call each other and say, well, are you going to do this one, or am I going to do this one? And so if I watch anything regularly in the L to Z part of the alphabet, then you know I really like it, because I don't have to watch it. Which brings us to NYPD Blue.
Okay.
Since I actually have watched that a couple of times. And earlier we were talking about how sometimes it's not bad to try to redo a formula that has worked before and do it for the 90s.
Yeah.
And you watch NYPD Blue and you say, well, fine, it's Hill Street Blues 10 years later. But fine, I don't care.
Yeah.
That's what Briscoe does best. He's got good writing. He's got a good cast in there. It's not quite Hill Street in the sense that Hill Street started out deliberately as, look at this ensemble. Whereas here it's saying, we're going to start by focusing on a couple of characters. Well, that's just a smoke screen. The other ones are going to start popping up, and you're going to have a nice ensemble by the time that's finished. And
David Caruso is just a delight.
He's wonderful as the lead, and of course, I'm sorry, I've loved Dennis Franz since the old organic theater days.
Yeah.
And so the opportunity for him to basically do Lieutenant Bunce again,
he is Dennis Franz,
is wonderful.
He only does one character, but he does it so well.
So well, you want to see it, and you love the excuse for him to trot it out again.
You know, the only thing that bothers me about NYPD, but actually two things. One, while I am not offended by the language and the situations, I don't think it was necessary to do it. On one hand, it was a gimmick to get people to watch the show. On the other hand, it resulted in a lot of stations not running the show.
85.
So they got a problem there. But it's still doing well in the ratings. But the other thing that bothers me is okay, it's the 90s, we want the MTV generation, so we're going to do this moving camera thing back and forth, which can be real distracting sometimes. You just don't need it.
But it's also the Hill Street Blues handheld camera just done a little faster, and it's Woody Allen's handheld camera done from like Husbands and Wives. I mean, it's not like just for the MTV generation. That's a certain style of...
But can you watch the opening of the show? I mean, after they've done their original setup, when they do the credits, can you watch it without getting just a little dizzy?
Actually, I can, but you've got to realize when I watch TV, I ride the fast forward button. I mean,
it's really fast.
So you're just going, your eyes
are. So, in fact, my wife has sometimes said, "Come on, slow down. I'm getting dizzy," because I'll go. That's the end of the commercial, and realize the commercials now are like 12 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's like boom, 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 boom. So I see that all the time. So the NYPD opening to me is slow.
But I have to agree with, I think it was Mike Clark in USA Today who said, give this series a couple weeks and you won't care about the nudity or the language. You will care about the characters. And the plot twist, he's absolutely correct.
Well, and you actually said the reason that he had the big deal about nudity and language is, I hate to say it, he can argue all he wants that this is endemic to the characters and you need it. No, it got him attention.
Yeah.
It got him a lot of attention. It stood out from the pack. And it doesn't matter that stations dropped it, because if it got that exposure, enough stations stuck with it, it could build its ratings. A soap started out years ago. We're going back a couple decades now, but in those old days when soap had the similar type of controversy and stations dropping it all, gosh, by the second or maybe it was the third season, I mean, there was no warning anymore.
Yeah.
And it became a hit, and suddenly, well, maybe we, the affiliates, don't really care quite as much as we said we cared, because this is now a hot show, and so let's put it on.
I think in last week's ratings, I think NYPD Blue went from something like 19 to 17 or something.
Right.
The point is, it's in the top 20 and it's moving up.
And frankly, in these days, if you just comfortably do well in your time slot, or if you do better than what preceded you in the time slot, that is, if you're replacing a show that was very unsuccessful and you do better numbers, then that's good. And And it also, without dredging up too much of last year, it's one of the reasons why the Jackie Thomas show was in some ways considered unsuccessful, even though it was one of the highest-rated new shows.
It had the hottest.
But it lost an incredible amount of audience from what preceded it, which was Roseanne's show. And so you've got to kind of look at it in a number of ways. And ultimately, if someone could figure out some way of justifying, keep me around because of these reasons, hey, it worked for St. Elsewhere for like 6 seasons, and you just hope that a show you like is the one that manages to pull that off.
Yeah, that the bosses like.
Well, that too. I hate to say it.
Well, that happened with Hill Street, right?
Well, St. Elsewhere too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, some upper management type said, I want to keep this show on the air. Great. Okay.
That was what's-his-face?
Tartikoff.
Yeah, Brandon Tartikoff, yeah. Let's take a couple other callers real quick. Sue and Phyllis, you guys wanted to talk about Homefront. Sue, say hi to Phyllis. Phyllis, say hi to Sue.
Hi, Sue. This is Phyllis.
Well, let's start with Sue. What's your opinion of Homefront?
Well, I adored the show, and I just couldn't understand why there either wasn't the audience or why it's off the air.
I think it was the time slot.
Yeah, what's happening with that? Because they were going to kind of bring it back, but then they didn't, and what's...
Well, do you remember last spring, I assume, if you're both Homefront fans, that...
May I?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, what I want to know is, like Sue, I just loved Homefront. I loved I'll Fly Away. I loved Life Goes On.
Yeah. Wonderful show.
Yeah. What I want to know is, why do the good shows with the lovely acting, with a little bit of brain power that you need to even watch them, why do those shows go off?
Doesn't a lot of it depend on the time slot? And specifically, we were huge fans of Life Goes On, which did demographically very well for ABC against 60 Minutes. But apparently, after leaving it on for about, 4 seasons? I think it was 4 seasons. They decided, okay, that's it. We're not going to... It's done what it's going to do. We're not going to get any more with it. And they...
That last season was one of the most powerful things I think television can do. It educated, but it didn't hit you over the head.
And actually, let me jump in and talk about the last 7 episodes of Homefront, which was the last arc that they slotted into last spring, going into the summer. Those were just some of the most superbly crafted of that genre that I had just seen in ages. It had a wonderful sense of time and place, because remember, this was set in the post-World War II America. And in fact, I took the greatest pleasure out of watching Homefront, and also in conjunction with I'll Fly Away, because if you tape those two together, you started getting the immediate post-war world, and then you started getting into the 60s.
See, Homefront lost me in the first season for this reason.
and I'm someone who came into it in the last season and really warmed to it.
Well, I'm curious. In the last season, did they correct what lost me in the first season, which was, I was there, I was interested in the characters, but they were doing this 30-second thing with each situation, and then they moved, kind of like what Dallas did in its last season. You'd get 30 to 90 seconds of this situation, then you move on to the next thing.
The reason I mentioned the last 7 episodes is they did just the opposite. They said, here's our group of characters.
Okay.
Now we're going to focus on these 2 or 3 for this 2-episode arc, and they're going to be hints of what's to come for others later, but it's just going to be hints. Now for these next 2 episodes, we're going to barely mention these characters that you've been looking at for these, and we're going to focus on these folks. Go and follow another arc.
So
and
they had their rhythm.
They had the most wonderful rhythm. They introduced television to that town, and that was done well. It was just so superbly written. Why is it gone? Why any shows disappear is always a combination of things like, do they have someone in the front office fighting for them? Can they figure out some way of justifying themselves, again, using the St. Elsewhere example, of demographically we've got this prime target audience here, and so we can charge more for commercials, so therefore, even though we have lower ratings, we can deliver enough goods to the network, and also we'll do better in this slot than anything else they've put into this slot. We're not beating the competition, but we're doing better than what had preceded us. And any one of those factors can disappear.
Now, I thought Homefront and I'll Fly Away both appeal to an older demographic, which they think is, in many cases, I think is foolish, but the networks think is, in many cases, a kiss of death. That's why Matlock got moved from one network to another.
And nothing made me happier than to see Matlock succeed after it got... And actually in the heat of the night.
And they were open about the fact that we have older people watching. Well, older people do buy stuff, too.
And they have a lot more disposable income.
Yeah, so I'll just have to echo what the two callers said, is that sometimes it's the most frustrating thing to fall... We are serious TV viewers. The American public really are serious about the shows they watch. And if anything bothers me about the bi-coastal attitude towards the great middle, namely us, it's just that they all too often think of their stuff as so disposable. And if it's well written, and if we can really identify with the characters, and if someone finds that rhythm that we like, we follow it. And it really matters to us if it's done wrong.
It is upsetting. In some cases, it's offensive because we're not being cherished the way we should. Because after all, we are consumers. That's the bottom line. Golden Years is a classic example. They strung us along for 5 episodes of Golden Years, and we knew it was going to be a 6-episode show. But they never finished the show.
Yeah, we never got the last one.
Don't do that to me. Don't play with me that way. And I thought that
it was one of the best Stephen King things that has ever been on television.
Because they allowed it to take its time.
At the end.
Yeah.
And they just said, oh, by the way, everything you've seen, well, in essence, the whole plot is advanced 1 inch.
In a funny sort of way, though, that kind of capsulizes what I think is, and I read every single thing that Stephen King writes, and the big problem is the journey is wonderful, but the ending is cold. So
are they ever going to show us the final episode?
Rent the tape, because basically he's cheated. He's rewritten the ending, and if you rent the videotape, you will see it end.
Oh.
No.
I've never heard that. That's great.
Yeah, go ahead and pick it up. But I won't tell you, because, of course, you still have Cop Rock to watch.
Yeah. Okay. Sue and Phyllis, thanks for your call. 591-7200, the phone number. Should we talk about primetime television, and we're talking primarily the networks. Should we integrate into it at this point in the vast 150,000 channels that are available to us? The independence and syndication and cable and all of that?
Yeah.
Anything that is really
Baywatch,
new?
the most popular show on the planet?
How about it?
Well, the funniest part about Baywatch is it started on NBC and was canceled after 1 season. It was a Grant Tinker production, actually. And my reaction was, they should just put aside any pretense of trying to do, like, stories.
And just make it butt-watch.
Right, and that's what they did.
And it worked.
Okay, to be fair, there's often a semi-obligatory video in the middle of it where people are running along the beach. Hey, that's what they do. They do it well, and it's not the most popular series in the country, but worldwide it does fabulously. And you've seen a lot of knockouts this year. Acapulco Heat, which is, so-so. There's also
the one with Henley?
No. I'm talking about syndicated. The Henley one is coming, I think, next week.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. That looks interesting.
And then there's Cobra, which actually had a very successful debut. This was one of those...
Cobra, which was supposed to be called Viper, but they had to change the name because somebody else was doing a series called Viper, and they had the okay from the Dodge Viper company to do that.
So in any case, this man works for one of those agencies that rights wrongs, and Stephen J. Cannell, it's the A-Team. He's handsome, she's pretty, fine. Okay.
Well, speaking of looks, Hasselhoff said in Entertainment Weekly a couple of weeks ago that since he's the producer, I mean, he really did, in essence, save the show. He says, this year we're not going to have as many thong shots as we have in past years, and I'll be honest with you, it's because they won't look at me.
And I think they have their first brunette.
Oh, really? Ooh, on the beach. What an original idea.
Well, speaking of thong shots, Punnett was listening to all this.
Yeah. That'd be like the Tales from the Crypt episode. Like me in a thong. Hey, I think you're thinking of Fabio, Johnny, on that Acapulco Heat show. That's the big star.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
No, my question, it's an A through F show, or A through K.
Okay.
What's wrong with Frasier?
I don't think anything's wrong with Frasier.
Really?
So,
I keep trying to watch it, and it works about 80% well as Cheers, and I can't put my finger on why it is that Frasier isn't as enjoyable in this spin-off show as he was as a character in the ensemble.
Oh, well, it's a different type of show. So his ensemble isn't as well established yet as the Cheers one. But also, Cheers focused a lot more on people throwing out jokes, frankly. When you were in the bar and watching, especially Norm and Cliffy exchanging comments that had absolutely nothing to do with the plot. That's where you would get a lot of the throwaway television allusions or Roadrunner jokes or what have you, while the Sam and Diane or whatever else was going on in the background. So I think that's one element that isn't in Frasier, so that you would react to it differently. Frasier is a much more leisurely paced show. Cheers, you could never call that leisurely.
But he just seems so agitated all the time.
Oh, him? Oh, the character.
Yeah, the character. I mean, he's just not as enjoyable as a character. And I really do keep trying to watch it.
Are you missing the counterbalance of his wife?
Well, whose wife?
Frasier's. Did you see the very first episode of Frasier?
No.
Because they, right at the opening credits, they set the stage of he explains in talking. He's a telephone psychiatrist, a radio psychiatrist.
Right.
So he's
who doesn't use headphones.
Yeah, I know.
Well, what can I say?
Amongst other sins.
Right.
Yes. But as he is describing somebody else's situation, he's obviously talking about his own. And he describes how his wife left him, and he was miserable and heartbroken.
And he has a little boy.
And then she came back, and that was even worse. And then he goes on to explain shortly after that they got divorced and all. And I think part of the edginess in him is he is still a little bitter about what he went through, because they did clearly establish on Cheers that she kind of went off her rocker.
Yeah.
And I think because they've surrounded him with, to me, are very good supporting characters. I think that the person who helps his dad in particular, we talked about,
good.
John Mahoney, is just wonderful.
Well, I love the character of his brother. That guy is like absolutely perfect casting.
And as I said earlier, is his brother is actually Frasier as we first met Frasier back on
he's
Cheers.
got the harder edge.
Yeah.
And so...
and don't you love Eddie, Ian?
That dog is so cool.
Yeah, I guess part of the problem is that, Frasier used to have these moments where it just always seems like he's so wound up, he's just wound so tight that it's hard for me to relax and enjoy him like I did when he was a character, and he would only occasionally boil up and boil over. He's just boiling over all the time. But that's an interesting perspective, and since I missed the first couple of shows, I probably missed part of that pacing. But, good. Well, I look forward to catching it more in the future.
Just think of this. When you're doing the afternoon show, you have an audience of people who look at their radios the way Eddie looks at Frasier.
I'll keep that in mind.
Thanks, Ian.
Okay,
bye.
Some guys complain about shopping.
I finally got it narrowed down to the Peach Saxony or...
But I'm having fun here at Olson Rug Company's store-wide sale. Did you see this?
Ooh, seafoam green.
Olson Rug's taking 40 to 60% off carpets and rugs store-wide.
Okay, it's the seafoam...
Hey, Aqua.
Oh, Aqua.
It's Olson Rug's biggest sale of the year. Up to 60% off carpets like Wear Dated and... Hey, Claire, what about a Berber?
A Berber.
Olson Rug covers everything to cover your floors. During our store-wide sale, along with 40 to 60% off so many carpets, handmade Chinese rugs are on sale, too, and ceramic tile in a variety of sizes and colors.
Boy, Olson Rug sure has a lot of tile choices for that new foyer we want.
Tile. Look at all the tile.
Her head's spinning now, huh?
Olson Rug's store-wide sale on carpets, rugs, and ceramic tile is only through Sunday. As you can tell, it's our biggest sale of the year at all 14 Olson Rug Company stores.
Tonight, NBC presents a world premiere miniseries event, Barbara Taylor Bradford's Remember. Donna Mills stars as Nicole Wells, a beautiful journalist, and when she stumbles on a startling secret, will she risk her life to find out the truth?
Help me, please.
They tried to kill you twice. You want to give them a third chance?
The powerful best-selling novel becomes a world premiere NBC miniseries event, Remember.
As long as I live, I won't forget you.
Starting tonight on NBC.
For TGI Fridays, comedian Dennis Miller.
Let's see what's in the news today. Social unrest, political upheaval. Hey, here's something. TGI Fridays' new fall menu. Szechuan shrimp Alfredo. No way. Tender, flaky grilled salmon in a maple pecan glaze. Mmm. Chicken and biscuits. And the magnificence that is rock slide pie. It is a wacky world out there, huh, kids?
TGI Fridays' new fall menu at participating restaurants. Everyone looks forward to Fridays.
Let's talk about the latest thing in shoes. It doesn't come from Paris or Italy. It's Dr. Scholl's new ultra-thin insoles, and it's the one thing your high heels shouldn't be without. Dr. Scholl's new space-age material gives you maximum cushioning and shock absorption in an insole that's as thin as a dime. And every ultra-thin insole is guaranteed to make your feet more comfortable or your money back. Finally, there's one thing that goes with every pair of high heels. Dr. Scholl's new ultra-thin insoles. Make life in your shoes more comfortable.
329 at WGN Radio, Steve King and Johnny Putnam. Chicago weather is just gorgeous. We have given you permission to go out in your cars as long as you turn your car radio on, because this is a gorgeous day. Sunny and mild.
We've locked Wally in here.
Yeah, Wally can't leave. No.
Anybody
that walks in the building, they're locked in. They got to stay here. High in the lower 70s. Fair tonight, low in the upper 40s. Tomorrow, some sun, mild, high in the lower 70s. Tuesday, dry with a high near 60. Wednesday, colder, high around 50. Current temperature is 69 at O'Hare, Midway 70, Lakefront 71. Quick reminder, too, when we get back on here 2 in the morning tonight, we will have Nick DiGilio with us. We're doing our annual Halloween movie show. So some of the scary movies, and your suggestion for scary movies or movie scenes that you have to recommend.
We always have to set aside a little bit of time, too, to talk about scary stuff on television, because it always comes up. It has come up for the past 20 years, and that is the Night Gallery episode with the earwigs.
Yep.
That has to be one of the most terrifying things. If you watched it, you know exactly what we're talking. And if you hear the word earwig, even if you didn't watch it, now you know that it's one of those things you should be afraid of.
Yes.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
The much maligned earwig.
You want any traffic stuff we should mention?
Yeah,
now,
I should tell you that on the Kennedy Expressway, all of the inbound lanes are open, yes, from the junction into Hubbard's Cave. See, I still have that traffic person's heart. The entrance ramps at
Her adrenaline is rushing as she's reading.
Elston, I'm flushed, too.
Yeah.
Elston, Kimball, and Sacramento, those entrance ramps are open. This was all supposed to be done by next week. So look, that's what $1 million carrot will do for you. Just dangle it out there and watch them move theirselves. It looks like on the outbound side of the Kennedy, though, there's some heavy traffic trying to get on the Northwest Tollway. That's because of an ongoing construction project just out of the toll plaza. So if you're going out around the airport, you may be confronted with that for a while. We've had some heavy traffic on the tri-state heading northbound. A lot of folks going up toward Great America. Great America is open for weekends in the month of October, and they do this incredible Fright Night thing. So apparently a lot of folks went out to enjoy weather like today. We had an accident on the Northwest Tollway, but that was out around Barrington. That should be gone by now, but just use caution.
We hope.
Yeah.
Because yesterday was just a mess. Wally Podrazik in the studio with us. Wally has written any of a number of books on television, the most recent being Harry and Wally's favorite TV shows. When's your next book coming out?
Well, actually, the next thing I've been involved with and been doing a lot of writing is coming out within a month or so, and I handed you a press release on it as I walked in. It takes us into the world of CD-ROM, at least takes me into the world of CD-ROM, and it's a CD-ROM version of It's a Wonderful Life. It has the entire movie on CD-ROM. First time this has been done. And I do the historical text and biographical background.
Now, if I understand it right.
And also the audio commentary. There's like about an hour's worth of audio that you can click on at different points, and you'll hear me. Well, it's like being on the radio.
That's what I was going to ask. At various, you get to a scene in the movie, you can stop it, and then you punch something, and then there is Wally explaining how this scene was done, and
or just offering some observations about something to think about as you look at the scene.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a lot. It's been a lot of fun to do, and but we'll talk at length about that in about a month or so.
I know what is going to happen now. I see this project in Wally's future, because for anybody that doesn't know, along with writing the books on TV, Wally has written any of a number of books on the Beatles. Wally has also done the annotations for the official Beatles coins as they have come out. There will be CD-ROM versions of the Beatles movies, and Wally will do the commentary. I know this is going to happen, right?
Oh, I wouldn't guarantee that. Actually, there has been one attempt to do a CD-ROM version of A Hard Day's Night, and actually, it's okay. It just doesn't have anywhere near the depth or range of commentary that we're talking about for this It's a Wonderful Life.
I said Citizen Kane has to be done like this.
Yeah, that's
that
got to
be a real keeper. And you can have the gig.
Oh, well, gosh, thanks. Okay.
Well, back to TV stuff. Before we get to a couple other calls, Anything, we talked Baywatch, any other major syndicated things we should mention, or cable things?
Well, when you come to cable, the semi-obligatory Larry Sanders Show should be mentioned.
Which is wonderful, yeah.
People absolutely love that. And it has the strangest schedule when you think about it. I mean, what does it run, like maybe 12 weeks a year? And it comes in like the late summer and then ends by the fall. And, I mean, that's not a bad gig. And just is praised to high heaven, and rightly so.
Yeah.
It's very cleverly done. Here's an odd thing. We talked about gratuitous language or pushing the envelope. Well, Larry Sanders certainly has its share of words that probably wouldn't be able to air on this radio station. Could you imagine syndicating that show in reruns in about 3 or 4 years?
Oh. That's going to be an interesting problem.
Yeah. Well, I'd be interested as to whether they're doing simultaneous recordings and doing a soundtrack like they do for movies, because First and 10 has just hit regular over-the-air syndication. First and 10, the football, down, dirty, gritty, locker room talk.
Did they do a separate audio
scenes,
track for it, or what?
Well, they seem to have cut 2 minutes out of each episode for starters.
But isn't that kind of normal, though, when a show goes into syndication? One of the things, even with regular network stuff, they cut about 2 minutes out to give the local stations that much more commercial time.
Right, but in this case, you had to just to start off. And I haven't caught yet how, because you have to catch a lot of episodes to really, frankly, I don't remember exactly what the dialogue was like at a particular point.
So you would know what to miss.
Right, but that's just, I would never have expected that. And Tales from the Crypt is also supposed to do a syndicated package sometime in the future. Again, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because it's
that's a good show.
Particularly gory. But well done in what it does.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the syndicated world is interesting. It's the reason you end up talking about the network programs is that they do potentially have the greatest audience reach.
Aren't the biggies, along with Baywatch, in syndication... Star Trek: The Next Generation, The Untouchables. Is Deep Space Nine doing well?
Up there, yeah.
The Untouchables, I think, is still doing pretty well, too.
Hey, have you heard about the time change for The Untouchables? GN has moved The Untouchables to 5 o'clock in the evening. And apparently there's been no statement as to why. I would think that would get them more heat.
Yeah, because it's much earlier.
Yeah, the 9 o'clock time slot. Of course, the controversy surrounding The Untouchables has been from Italian-American organizations who feel that there are all kinds of negative...
Well, they have never liked that show since the original versions of the show.
No. In fact, they showed their clout because they were responsible for basically taking the Columbus Day Parade to a television station, and they said to Channel 9, no, you're not getting it this year. You're not listening to our complaints, so we're going over to Channel 7.
And actually, in the original Untouchables, they eventually added... an Italian-American to Elliot Ness's crew. This was in the Robert Stack version of The Untouchables, partially in response to reactions at the time. Look, I mean, I'm a Polish-American, and I have had my share of Polish jokes shoved down my throat, and so if there's a positive portrayal that could be presented, I love Banachek.
It was a great show.
But also strictly for ethnic reasons. It's like, if I'm going to have a Pole on the air, he's going to be a millionaire. He's going to be smarter than anyone else in the room. I'm all for that.
Right.
So I can really understand how someone could be sensitive. It's just, you start saying, okay, look, there's a wide universe out there. If we're sensitive to everybody, then we're never going to have any controversy and any conflict and any story that advances too far beyond, hi, how you doing?
And you can be sensitive to people and still say, there were some people of every particular ethnic background that were real scum.
We don't have to rewrite history while we're being overly sensitive, apparently that's one of the other controversies surrounding NYPD Blue is the stereotyping of various ethnic groups.
As a matter of fact, there was a long monologue or dialogue with, did you catch this past week's episode, in which this old veteran of the force for like 20, 25 years didn't realize he was being tape recorded. And then he let loose with every kind of ethnic slur you can imagine, explaining why these people that lived in this flop house that he was managing and trying to close down for the owner basically didn't deserve the time of day.
Right.
And you sit there, and it's sort of like the reaction Archie Bunker, in that you say, okay, do I close my eyes and say there aren't such people in the world and we should never show them? Or, hey, I recognize him. I heard him at the tavern last week. And it's what do you do then with that character? And they obviously adopted the Archie Bunker in that character, well, turned out to be a real villain, so he gets his comeuppance. But even with Archie, it was always clear that he might talk a good game, but deep in his heart, he actually wasn't as prejudiced as he was saying. And whenever he would say something, it would inevitably be proven wrong. So if you can't trust these people, they're not smart or whatever, and then they would be the ones that would make the money or make the right choice or whatever and look better than him. So.
Let's take a quick break, then we'll get back to a bunch of people that have been hanging on the line. We'll get to Gloria and Marlene and Dolores and Karen and Mary. Stay with us. We're coming back.
Monday Night Football, the Purple and Gold Vikings come to town featuring Mad Mac, quarterback Jim McMahon. It's the Bears and Vikes right here on WGN Radio starting at 5 p.m. Join Wayne Larrivee, Hall of Famer Dick Butkus, Bears great Gary Fensick, and Hub Arkush with the play-by-play. Hi, this is Chuck Swirsky. I'll have pre, half, and post-game coverage live from Gate Field. You'll hear from McCaskey, Lundstedt, Harbaugh, Armstrong, and the Cars. The Bears go for their 4th straight win. Monday night, starting at 5, against the Minnesota Vikings on the home of the Bears, WGN Radio.
Sam knew that workers' compensation injuries were hurting everyone in his company.
I care about my workers, and I don't like to see them get hurt. When one is out in workers' compensation, no one wins, with lost wages, lower productivity, higher costs.
Sam didn't know then that there was a lot he could do to help his employees recover sooner and return to work, until his independent agent told him about the CNA insurance companies.
CNA helps my employees get appropriate medical treatment right away. If a case is severe, they bring in medical and rehabilitation specialists. CNA wants to make sure the treatment is timely, appropriate, and cost-effective. CNA also showed us how to modify a job or even a work area so an employee could become productive again. CNA really works hard to take care of my employees and my company.
Ask your independent agent about the CNA insurance companies and how insurance can work harder for you. CNA, for all the commitments you make.
If only you didn't just know there was an old English roadster awaiting you somewhere in a dusty barn. If only refinancing wouldn't save you bushels of cash. If only you never saw that new kitchen in a magazine and in your dreams. And if only there weren't a prime rate home equity line of credit from LaSalle that was so flexible you can put it to work whenever you want, you wouldn't have a single reason to call. But as things stand, you don't have a single excuse not to. To get prime rate by borrowing a minimum of $100,000, call 1-800-772-9977 to get started with an application today. LaSalle, the bank that works.
Variable APR of 6.5%, or 7% based on the Wall Street Journal's prime, currently 6%. 21 maximum. $35 annual fee begins second year. Balloon payment may occur at maturity. Property insurance required. Call 1-800-772-9977 weekdays 9 to 9. Equal housing lender.
Things have gone desperately wrong. There are no jobs, little food. People live in streets and in harbors waiting for shelter. The rich are obscenely rich, and the poor have little hope. Which of our cities is this? All of them in 1933. Starting October 25th, PBS looks at the Great Depression and the lives of ordinary people during desperate times. You'll want to see how they pulled through it. The Great Depression starts tomorrow on PBS. Check your local listing.
Have you ever dreamed of days that bloom a passionate red? A sea of turquoise where blues drift away. Gold that holds the treasures of time. Have you ever dreamed of a place where vacations come in more colors than tan? Where you can have all this at a price that can make your dream come true? Mexico. Everything you ever dreamed of. Call today, 1-800-44-MEXICO.
Just a quick mention that if you're on the inbound Edens Expressway on this beautiful Sunday afternoon and you're sitting in traffic and wondering, oh, why, there had been a van on fire at Old Orchard. That fire is out. All lanes are now open and have been open for a few minutes, but we are told that traffic is just really stretching out and shaking loose from north of Old Orchard, so use caution if you're in that area. Once you get to the Kennedy, you'll be pleasantly surprised. The inbound Kennedy is different in that all the lanes have reopened to traffic, but it is heavy if you're on the outbound side, approaching the split with the Edens and the Kennedy, and then out around the airport trying to get onto the Northwest Tollway. We got stuck in that yesterday. It is a bear.
You've got 8 lanes through the toll booths that narrow down to 2.
2 lanes.
And it's just horrible.
Yeah. In fact, do anything. Just don't get tied up in that nonsense. And people get angry, and it's such a nice day, and they've got whining children in the back seat. Oh, we're going to be here forever. And it feels like you're there forever. It really puts a damper on a great day.
Wally Podrazik in the studio with us, author of a number of really good books about TV and TV scheduling. Most recently, Harry and Wally's TV book. And let's take some phone calls from some people. We're talking about the new season. And Gloria had a comment about Angel Falls.
Yes, what happened to it? I really enjoyed it. I would tape it if I wasn't home.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It was on CBS, but I see where it's not on this week. There's no.
They canceled it, and I have to share your surprise. I'm normally not a big fan of soaps. In effect, primetime drama soaps. But Angel Falls, it was Ada K. I had to watch it, so I taped a couple episodes, and I thought they had good setups, a lot of threads that I wanted to follow. They even had one of the alums from I'll Fly Away, Jeremy London, playing a son, and actually they almost lifted one of the subplots from an episode of I'll Fly Away when he was falsely accused of rape.
Oh.
But the thing is, it was well done.
Right.
And a show like that, you usually expect it, if it's not doing real well, they let it ride for half a season or maybe jiggle it around a little. It was just cut.
And then they ended it on such a note where she tells him that he's the father.
Oh, right, yeah. Your son can't, or my son can't go out with your daughter because they're really... Well, you're the father of my son.
Yeah, which is a great soap opera twist.
Right, and that was it. And
James Brolin was terrific in that.
Yeah.
Peggy Lipton was good. The cast was really powerful. Obviously, a lot of money went into it. I think 4 episodes ran. They had 6.
So you'll probably see them turn up in the summer playoff season.
Which is too bad. Yeah, they should have just let it go. I agree with you, Gloria. In fact, this was a case of, Wally, you're not a big fan of soap opera, nighttime soap operas. We are.
Mm-hmm.
We came to it late. I don't even know if you tuned into it, Steve.
No, I didn't.
But I actually tuned into it based on my mother, who hates nighttime soap operas, raving about this. So there had to be something there that made it okay for people who didn't normally like this kind of stuff.
Again, the one of the illusions that we sometimes have is that there are people who are sitting in these glass booth offices up there who have all these statistics and whatever, and they're looking at it and making these decisions that we common folk, we just can't understand it.
Well, they're going to have to get wise. They're never going to have the ratings that they had because there's too much competition.
Yeah. They're like we were joking earlier, there are 57 channels and nothing on. I mean, how many times have you gone to the television and said, darn it all, there is nothing I want to spend my time watching?
Right.
Which is insane if you've got cable coming into your house. In fact, the other week, this floored me. Pretty Woman has been on video cassette forever, and probably most people saw it at the movie. It was on network television. It was number 1. Why?
Because there's still a huge percentage of people that don't have cable and maybe chose not to rent the movie because the main attraction of over-the-air network programming is it's still free, folks.
Yeah,
and
it's still free, and you can also run out to the kitchen every couple of minutes to get whatever you need.
For long breaks. Well, Gloria will send you our goodie package for hanging in there, a grand piano telephone from Carnes Music and KDA Kitchen Distributors, recognizing that October is Fire Safety Month. Want you to have a fire extinguisher, put it in your kitchen or by your Christmas tree, and we want you to get fixed up at Mario Turcosi's, a haircut and a styling certificate coming your way.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Gloria. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
And Marlene, hi, you've been hanging out for a while. You want to talk about what?
I've made my whole spaghetti dinner.
Is it good? Can we have some?
Sure.
We could be over in 45 minutes.
I just want to comment how delighted I am that Hearts of Fire is coming back. That's the comedy with John Ritter and Marky Post.
Mm-hmm.
It was just such a fun show, and I used to look forward to it every Monday, and all of a sudden it was just gone.
Well...
the thing about this, I'd be curious as to what your reaction is, because they're changing the setting of it. They're moving from Washington, D.C. back to back home. I forget what state he's supposed to come from. And they're changing it so that they're going to be running a small-town newspaper, which in a strange way may help it a lot, because the one thing that I didn't like about the show is that it sort of had a chip on its shoulder about the Washington, D.C. crowd and the press in particular. And so there's a lot of unnecessary sniping, I thought, that didn't really work. I love John Ritter.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people who have... I defended Three's Company based on John Ritter. Okay?
I think he's one of the best comedic actors on television.
Yeah, and I like Marky Post tremendously, too, not just from Night Court, but she was also on The Fall Guy as the bail person that he used to work for.
Well, the interesting thing, I think I heard Roy Leonard one Saturday mention that this Georgianne character was a takeoff on a foreign correspondent, Georgianne Geyer. I went to high school with her.
Did you?
Really?
Yes.
Well, Geyer apparently threatened lawsuits if they didn't tone that character down, because she said, that is not me. If the word is out that this is supposed to be a me-like character, I am not promiscuous. I am. She had this long list of things. And she said,
she really wasn't.
Oh, she said, you better change it, guys. And apparently she's got enough clout that they changed that character.
Well, maybe it isn't just a coincidence that they moved out of Washington and went down to...
Maybe they'll change her name, too.
Don't need to do that. Well, they got married. Did she change her last name? Just kidding.
But real quickly, I also agree with Matt about you. I love it.
Isn't that a great show?
Yes, and I'm disappointed with Seinfeld with the sexual overtones.
Yeah, he's got to watch it, because you can do that once or twice, but if that becomes the reason you tune in, you start losing track of other things. And the
show loses its depth.
They have done shows that have not been like that. So I'm just hoping that the balance doesn't start shifting away from what attracted people, I think, to Seinfeld in the first place. Which was not, oh, look, he's going to say something naughty. It was, oh, I've done that.
Exactly.
And that's what you want to identify with.
Well, Marlene, enjoy your supper and the goodies we're sending you, okay?
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much, Marlene. And Dolores, you've been hanging on for a while, too. You want to talk about a show that is no longer on, but certainly one of our favorite shows, Life Goes On. Yeah.
That's right. The last episode of that left me quite puzzled. I didn't know whether Becca was dreaming this. Did she marry Jesse? Did Jesse die?
She married Jesse.
All of the above.
She had his son, and she was telling the little boy in great detail about his father.
Well, that just didn't seem possible, because he was dying of AIDS.
I don't think she had his son.
Oh,
they got married.
I'm sorry.
They got married. He died. She remarried,
and named her son.
Her son by her then husband was named Jesse.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, forgive me for that, because I remember thinking that there had been an earlier episode where we saw her as a doctor. Remember? And she was walking around the house with her
then husband, explaining about some of the things that were not.
So we knew that if they were going to be true to the show, that they were not going to let her magically, rewrite the future of this character.
And that's one of the things that to me was just paramount in this show. It was true to itself. They didn't cop out with somebody coming out of the shower and saying, oh, that was a dream or whatever. Right. They stayed true to the things that they had laid down with the show.
Oh, I'm so glad you clarified that for me. And what happened to Paige? Did she ever marry that construction man that was in love with her, or did that just fade out?
I don't think so, because she had married that other guy.
But that didn't work out.
Right, she didn't actually divorce him yet, so that was kind of out there somewhere. I'd like to see a lot of those people go on to other television shows. Obviously, Patti LuPone...
She's doing Broadway now.
We don't need a tag day for her. She's in London with Andrew Lloyd Webber's play. She's hot stuff on stage. But
she's
the rest,
a good singer,
the rest of the people were so strong that you'd like to see them get honest work, too.
Well, I'm so happy you cleared this up.
Good.
You made my day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And let me see. Mary, you've been hanging on for a while, too.
Well, I wanted to stay so that I could tell you and everybody else. Fly Away is on Friday nights, and they're going to run the entire series.
On PBS.
On PBS, right straight through.
In fact, they just had, I think it was a 2-hour thing.
Yeah, when they started it. And it was sensational. It was just great.
I meant to tape that, and we missed it.
Well, they probably show it again.
Yeah, I'm sure they
The
will.
other thing I have a complaint about is why they ever took off Brooklyn Bridge.
That was one of those really... I heard Gary David Goldberg, who created Family Ties, and he did Brooklyn Bridge, and he thought of it as a little bit autobiographical, because it was tapping on his memories, and it was slotted in some very strange points. They kept moving it around. But the thing, I heard an interview with him where he said, look, I wasn't trying to do something like really controversial or anything. I mean, like 5 years ago, this was like par for the course. This was like normal television, like nice, warm, reflective comedy, happened to be set in the past.
Group of people.
Yeah. Sometimes a show seems like jinxed is all I can say. I mean, Frank's Place was similar in that they kicked it round. And I have this queasy feeling about one of my favorites of last season, which is Bob. It was kicked around a little bit, not as much as those others. It was put in that, frankly, it's put in a Friday night slot against all of the teen comedies on ABC. All the teen comedies are there for a good reason. That's where the audience is.
Sure.
And to put something like, I believe Hearts of Fire is coming back on Fridays. I could be wrong on that. But that's not where you want to put shows like Bob or Hearts of Fire or whatever. Mondays or the CBS lineup on Monday is much more appropriate for stuff like that.
Well, anyway, enjoy I'll Fly Away.
Okay.
Oh,
definitely.
Definitely.
Bye-bye now.
Thanks a bunch. Let me see. Sue, you had a comment about dinosaurs?
Yeah, I just was wondering if the show is coming back at all. My son really liked the show and disappointed that all of a sudden it was gone again.
I believe actually it is coming back. I saw a squib somewhere when they're talking about stuff that's going to be popping back to fill in the slots of shows that are gone. So I never read Dinosaurs being canceled. It's just sort of, that's one of those shows that has a following that, well, like your son, you never think about, oh, there's a dinosaurs following. But when it's on, they find it and they watch it, and there's a lot of dinosaurs merchandise out there. So clearly, there's an audience.
We tried to tape most of the shows too. So when he hasn't seen it for a while, we take it out and watch the shows every once in a while.
Thank God for videotapes.
Videotapes, yeah.
Yes, that's wonderful.
Right. In fact, we have a friend who invested in Aladdin and said it was the best $20 I've ever spent. I guess his daughter has seen Aladdin 53 times, and he says we're going for 100 before Christmas, and she's going to want all Aladdin stuff for Christmas.
I was going to say all the Disney stuff.
Sure.
I've never gone wrong with any of the Disney stuff. So
right. Well, thanks, Sue.
Thanks a lot.
Bye now.
Bye.
Okay.
Yeah, 53 times of Aladdin. I liked it, but
I loved Raiders of the Lost Ark, but 4 times was that was about it for me. Well, any stuff that is since the series is the season rather is sort of stretching out in different weeks. Anything's coming out over the next couple weeks that we should be looking for?
Well, something we already mentioned was Hearts of Fire is having its return, and we'll see how it works in that new setting. There are a couple of other shows that I'm not. South of Sunset, another one of those stud and beauty series, and actually George Foreman's series still has to premiere. And that's an 80K, so I'm definitely going to to be watching it.
It's called George, right?
Yeah, it's called George.
Like
easy one to remember.
His 7 children, all named George.
Yep.
His 6 or 7 boys, which is just great. It's easy to call them.
So there are a couple of those coming round. And again, the great thing about stretching out the season as the premiere season as they have is it does give you time to sample around, to search around, to see what's out. A couple we didn't mention. You want to chuckle, try Bakersfield PD for at least one night. It's just really
I've heard a lot
weird.
of good things about that.
It's very weird. Cafe Americaine, which is with Valerie Bertinelli.
That's one of Johnny's favorite shows.
It's a very good show. Again, it's almost in contrast to those shows that build something around a stand-up comic, and maybe or maybe not there'll be character development. You actually believe Valerie Bertinelli is this character. She's not just doing this.
Now that's funny because I like Valerie Bertinelli a lot. But I wanted to pull back a little bit. I think she's a little over the top.
Trying
and I wanted her to just, lay back just a little bit.
And any show that dares sets itself in Paris gives itself a wonderful excuse to have virtually anybody in the world walk through the front doors.
What was that? One of my favorite series, the thing Valerie Bertinelli did a couple of years ago. It was on for about a half season and got canceled. It was well done. It was intelligent. Was she like a detective or something?
Yeah, and I don't remember the title either.
Yeah.
Give me 2 hours and I'll have it. It wasn't 80K. A Family Album with Peter Scolari is a very loud show, and that's what it's been criticized for. But if you come from any normal ethnic family, good Polish family, sitting there talking about everything, that's Family Album.
Really?
I have no problem with that. I think it's a lot of fun to watch. And also there was another I'll Fly Away alum in there. I believe it's Ansley Levitch. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly.
He's an only child. That stuff scares me. They're too big and loud.
Yeah. She does this wonderful scene in the first episode, I believe it was the first episode, where she looked just like her I'll Fly Away character.
Oh.
And then she's trying to get a change into her life. She comes down looking as 90s punk as you can imagine. She dyed her hair blonde. She was wearing this weird outfit, and it was just so funny, realizing also the I'll Fly Away connection. I'm just looking for anything else on my checklist.
If you watched The Sisters early on, you got turned off because it became weird, downright eccentric. Last year, come back to it.
It's still kind of eccentric, but it works.
It works now. They're people that I would like to know. Last year, it got to the point where I didn't want to know any of these women. They were just too wacky.
There are still moments when I want to give them a pie in the face.
So anyway, I think the point in all this is that the cliche is there's never anything worthwhile watching on television, and frankly, I think there is, but you've always got to search it out.
Right, absolutely. Well,
but of course, tape it, listen to us, and tape it, and then, view portions of that stuff. Well, Wally, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'll see you next month.
Okay. We'll talk about It's a Wonderful Life.
It is 4 o'clock, WGN Radio Chicago, time for WGN Radio News.
And with our 4 o'clock news update, here is Wes Bleak.
Sorry.
Oh, that's fine. Here with our...
You guys are so good.
4
You guys are so right on top of everything that I was looking for sports scores, and...
You need a second? Let me give you a second, because I need something to take care of here.
Oh,
I'll give you 30 seconds.
If your brakes needs, remember this. The brake specialists at Sears have more certifications from the Institute of Automotive Service Excellence than any other retailer. That ASE badge on their shoulder tells you your brakes are being repaired by a tested, proven, experienced professional. Why trust the brakes on your family car with anyone less? Sears Tire and Auto Center. We're driven to satisfy.
And now...
Here with our 4 o'clock news.
Yeah, what took you guys so long?
Date is Wes Bleak.
Divers in Wisconsin have found the body of a missing Illinois woman who drowned in Lake Geneva following a boating accident this weekend. Walworth County, Wisconsin Sheriff's Police Sergeant Larry Hilbelink says 23-year-old Elizabeth Fall was on board one of the two boats that collided.
Two boats traveling in proximity of each other collided in a grazing motion, causing one boat to flip over and sink, and the other boat was disabled.
The operator of the boat on which Fall was riding has been charged with 2 counts of intoxicated use of a motorboat, but Hilbelink says new charges are likely. Fall was the daughter of Northwest suburban auto dealer Larry Fall. Much better news for an Elmhurst man who spent 8 hours in the chilly waters of Lake Michigan after...